she was smart, don't get me wrong, but many teachers compared her
To
to Sabrina. And that was not good. She didn't take that well at all. In fact, baby quit school in 16.
did she?
Went back to college, got a degree in accounting. And I go, okay, well, all right then.
Talk about our granddaughter, she's, doing her internship with school psychologist, so she's been testing children, and she said, you know, she's done so many this year that she remembers some of the questions, and I believe I was right. She said, she asked this little girl, said, what is something that, has directions on it, has degrees, and it will help you find your way? She said, my iPhone.
Hello.
I said, Gabby, did you have to work it wrong? And she said, yeah, Juju. I said, well, you know, and, but Gabby said, well, she's gonna say, yeah, she's, I've got this one, I got this one. She said, she went back and told the psychologist she's working on her, said, I think our tests are beginning, some questions are outdated.
Exactly.
But she, you know, she said, you can't, during the test, she can't tell her if she missed it or tell her, you know, anything, just keep smiling and go on to the next question.
Cell phone. I've got my
It will do anything.
Yeah, she's right.
We are on page 7 of the appendix. We're looking at word patterns, words that are used over and over, and what they mean. We're ready for number 4, the Almighty. And it gives the Greek term. The Greek term, translated literally, means to hold all. And I think that is one of the best descriptions of God. When you stop and think about it, that is the most comforting, maybe, because it says, He is the Almighty. He holds all. Everything is within His power, created by Him, overseen by Him. He knows all. So when God is referred to as the Almighty, it means He holds all. He holds everything. And as usual, it tells us how many times it's used, the term Almighty. It's used 10 times in the New Testament, and 9 of those are in Revelation. One thing you've noticed, I'm sure already, is how many times these terms are used in the book of Revelation. That it is a pattern for them to be used. Then, number 5 is throne. And of course, in English, if we hear the term throne, we automatically just think of the big old chair, ornate. But it represents a seat of power, because the one who is allowed to sit on the throne is the ruler. And the people of the first century would have been very familiar with that concept. In the ancient days, there were kings, there were emperors, and they would sit on thrones to pronounce their decrees or their judgments. Notice the number. 62 times the term throne is found in the New Testament, and 47 of those are in Revelation. Throne represents a seat of power. It does not always refer to God. It can refer to anyone sitting in a seat of power. Turn to Revelation chapter 2. And look at verse 13. This is where God, through Christ, through the angel, through John, is speaking to the church at Pergamos. And he says, I know your works, church, and where you dwell, where Satan's throne is. Pergamos, as a city, God says that's where Satan's throne is. If you're describing a city as being where Satan has his throne, what do you know about that city? Very wicked, surrounded by wickedness. So this church was in a place that was extremely corrupt and wicked. And God says, I know that's where you are. You're where Satan has his throne, his seat of power. It was so corrupt, so wicked, it was as though Satan was ruling from that city. Can you think of a city in modern times where you might say Satan has a throne?
Automatically think of Las Vegas.
Well, let's see.
I expect Satan has many thrones scattered throughout the world. But a throne is a seat of power. However, in Revelation, Christ is described as sitting on a white throne. And of course, white we've already talked about as being pure and victorious. White had two meanings, one of purity and innocence, and one of victory. So Christ sits on that white throne. Look at Revelation 13, and I think it's verse 2, if I can read my. verse 2. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and his great authority. We know it's talking about the Roman Empire, this beast, and that Satan gives him his throne, his seat of power. The evil powers that fight against God and in the New Age fight against his church are given their powers by Satan. They are Satan's allies. They don't just gain this power on their own. If Satan finds a corrupt government, don't you think he uses it? And it grows in power. Its throne widens, and its authority widens. It is given its power by Satan. God does not put a corrupt throne in place. He uses that corrupt throne and punishes eventually. The thrones of power that Satan used, like Assyria, Babylon, Rome, he used those powers to spread the evil throughout the world. What happened to them? To all of those nations. Do they exist? No, not anymore. They're gone. They were ended and punished. The white throne in chapter 20 at verse 11. Then I saw a great white throne, and him who sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. This is obviously the final judgment, because the earth and the heavens are gone, they're destroyed. And it's the white throne. It's the throne that is pure, that is just, that is victorious. And that's the throne that Christ holds. So throne is a seat of power. And when you start reading about the thrones, it's important to remember that it does represent power. And that power can either be evil or good. And that you are looking within the context to see who is talking, what they're talking about. As in chapter 2, when it says that Pergamos is Satan's throne. we know that that is the evil. So, throne, it's one of those word patterns that is good to notice. Another one is crown. Yeah, crown. And there are two words for crown. One is Stephanos, which means victory. It's a symbol of triumph. In the ancient Olympic Games, whoever won a particular race or contest, they placed a crown on their heads. And that crown symbolized their victory. Do they get crowns at the Olympics now? They get the medal.
Yeah.
But if you look at that medal closely, lots of times it has a crown on it. It'll have that leaf crown. That symbolizes victory. So a crown can mean victory. And again, the victory can be God's victory. It could even be Satan's victory. It means victory. Sometimes, as in chapter 2, verse 10, there is a crown described. This is a message to Christians. Do not fear any of those things which you're about to suffer. Indeed, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested. You will have tribulation 10 days. This last part. Be faithful until death, and I will give you the crown of life. Substitute for the word crown, victory. I will give you the victory of life. Of course, what kind of life is it talking about? Eternal. And that is the real victory of any person, any soul on earth. Humans get so caught up in accomplishments that they want on earth, things that they want to do, to get, to accomplish. God says the real victory is life. And of course, that life is eternal life. That should come first in anyone's life. And to make that crown of life, that one, the one you really want, to make it the priority, person has to keep that in mind all the time. That's why we have worship. That's why we're told to read the Bible. That's why we're told to pray. And to do those things continually, not just every once in a while. Because you'll lose focus on that ground. What if you were in the Olympics, you were going to swim in one of those races, swimming things? What if you just went to the swimming pool and practiced every once in a while? Would you attain that crown? No. And the same is true of that crown of life.
Every once in a while, I pull out the publication, the Gospel Advocate, we all got that
Yeah.
magazine. Brother Taylor, 6 hours a day, he studied.
Yeah.
And he read through the New Testament every month, and the Old Testament once a year. He had it all planned out.
Yeah. Yeah. And memorized
10,
all the other.
I think that you said he memorized 10 verses a day.
Yeah. I remember Irene one time, Robert was having a lot of trouble with his eyes. And she made a statement to me, I don't know what he'll do if he can't study.
Several of these preachers that wrote their articles said that they would have asked Miss Irene, well, how does it feel to live with such a Bible scholar? And her reply, you probably heard that, her reply was, well, I don't know, ask Robert.
Yeah, she never let anybody get anything on her. Especially those young upstart preachers. I like to think, when it mentions the crown of life, that it's a victory. It's a victory of life. There are a lot of instances, of course, in Revelation where crowns are talked about. And you remember in the chapter that uses the woman as a symbol of the church, she's crowned with 12 stars. And the crown that the church had, she had 12 of them. What does the 12 mean?
12 tribes.
12.
Tribes.
It could be tribes. It could be 12 apostles. But it is a complete, it means the church holds the power, the victory. The church holds the victory. And of course we know the church and God's kingdom are the same. And that to be in God's kingdom is the way to achieve that crown. And the church, the kingdom, are the same. And this is where we as a body are criticized by those who say, well, you can't go to heaven unless you're in your church. You can't go to heaven unless you're in the church that Christ established, Christ's kingdom. that is the center, the place of the victory. Another term, now that term was the one Stephanos, that means victory. Another term that's used for a crown is a diadem. There's a song we sing that has, I can't think of what it is now.
Victory in Jesus.
Okay. And a diadem is a crown of royalty. The Stephanos crown of victory, a diadem in Greek, is a crown of royalty. Can you have a crown of victory in earthly terms? Can you have a crown of victory, but it not be royalty? What is royalty?
I think of the English point.
Yeah, we think of the kings and queens, and that's what the great term means. It's talking about the ruling family, royalty. So, in the ancient times, could you win one of those crowns of victory in the Olympic Games, but not be royalty? Yeah. Yeah. In the Christian age, if we have that crown of victory as Christians, are we royalty also? We are the children of God. We are royalty in that sense. We are God. When we become part of that kingdom, we are priests, and we are the children of God. So we're in the line of royalty. Our crown says it all if we possess our crown. That we are victorious. We have that crown of life. And we are royalty. We are the children of God. And when you think of the crowns in that way, they're even more important. It becomes even more special, something that you want. If you own that crown of victory, the crown of royalty, that places you far above anything that the world could offer. You have the crown of victory, which is eternal life, the crown of life. You have a royal crown. You are a child of God. God, who is the Almighty, who holds all. You are a child of God. If you are in that position, you are far above anything that the world could offer. And when you think about how your life compares to all those billionaires, it's nothing. If they don't have that crown of life, think how far above you are in position from them. And when we remember that that's what we are as a Christian, it should encourage us to have a smile on our faces and to live as much as possible showing the world that. Because don't you want everyone you know and love to be in that same position? Don't you want all those friends, people that you know, to have that same position? When you think about how lofty God puts it and describing it as crowns and thrones, he is describing it as high as you can be as a human being. However, turn to Revelation chapter 3 and verse 11. Verse 11 says, "Behold, I am coming quickly." Christ, hold fast what you have, that no one may take your crown. We can be crowned with that eternal life. We can lose it. And Christ says, hold fast, so no one can take it. How do we hold fast?
Being faithful and staying close to the Lord every day.
Be faithful. Stay close to God every day. Study. Pray. All of those things. God says, I get the picture of, I got a crown and I'm holding on to it like that so somebody can't grab it off my head. Because there is someone at work in this world trying to get your crown. Satan. And you can't have it pushed down far enough that he can't take it. And I remember recently Justin talking about apathy being a danger to Christians, that we can feel comfortable in our position and safe and start not paying as much attention as we should. We need the renewing every day. We cannot reach the point. Robert Taylor didn't think he ever reached the point that he didn't need to study and memorize. And we don't. Because there's somebody behind us trying to snatch that crown. And Christ himself said, you can lose your crown. Satan, and we won't turn there because I think we're running out of time. Satan in chapter 12, it describes Satan as having diadems, crowns of royalty, on his 7 heads. What is that telling us about the power of Satan? He's got 7 crowns on 7 heads. He is powerful. We know that he's defeated ultimately. He knows it, but he is let loose in the world. And his one focus, one aim, is to get as many souls as he can. And this tells us he's got the power to do it. I think, which means you can never say, I've got him beat. Okay, we're ready for number 7.